Hey guys, it's Tim from Game Twaddle, and today we're here to talk to you about Dice Forge. And with me is
James Morey.
All right, guys. So Dice Forge is 2 to 4 players. I'm just going to tell you right now, I love it. I love the way it looks. Every turn, everybody's rolling their dice. They're big, chunky dice. You are gaining resources. And then only on your turn, though, do you get to actually buy things or go to spaces and get extra cards, which might give you new die faces, which you actually then cluck off one of your old die faces, and you put the new one on, and now your dice are better.
It's the whole thing about Dice Forge. You're actually forging custom dice. You start off with 2 basic ones, and you're rolling pretty low numbers, building up, and then you scale into this big combo machine.
Yes, and it's kind of a secret engine builder. You know, you don't even know it until you're like, oh yeah, like all these things are firing off either based on cards maybe you bought down here or die faces that you've gotten up there. And again, you're going on everybody's turn, everybody's rolling dice. So yeah, for me, spoiler alert, I love it. But anyways, we're going to break this game down into a couple of categories, give it ratings from 1 to 5, and then that way you can kind of decide how you feel about it. So accessibility is like the first category I like to hit. How hard is this to find? How hard is it to teach?
I would say you can find it in a lot of the game stores. Most places that carry a lot of games will have it. It's very popular.
Yeah, it's easy to find, and it's really easy to teach. Mm-hmm. It is really like you just tell people like, look, we're gonna roll dice. Like I've played before, I'll go first. You'll see how you buy stuff, and you just go. Like you can just kind of jump in feet first. Mm-hmm. And start to play. Like out of the box, you just open it up. The rules are very simple. There's not a ton of them. Maybe some explanations or clarifications on what the cards do.
I would say assuming somebody at the table knows how to play. If you're buying this at a store and you bring it home and your friends get it out, you will have to go through the rules and
That's fair.
That's fair. And know that when you do this, you have to do this. There's also a lot of symbology.
Yeah.
All of the cards have these symbols on them, and the dice have symbols on them, and so if you aren't familiar with what all the cards do or what all the special kind of dice faces you can buy, then have those rules handy.
But they do lay it out where it's not too hard to figure out, right? They give you a pretty, it's broken down pretty clearly. But yeah, I mean that's a fair point. But yeah, it's again though, I can take this and play this with about anybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, high marks on accessibility. For me, it's a 5. It's easy to find. It's easy to teach. Yeah, very, very accessible. All right, so components. Components for me, components is a 5. I love the dice. I love how easy. I've played other dice building games, and you are like sometimes fighting to get the die faces off. This game, they've got it engineered pretty smart. You just like work that corner in there, you can pop it out. The insert here with where you can buy stuff and like the tray on how it all fits. I mean that is, and then the sleeve to it.
The sleeve was ingenious.
It tells you where everything goes, mm-hmm. And then when you store it, it just slides in there, and it holds it all in place. It is, I mean, the cards are fine. I really like the artwork on the cards and like the layout of the board. I do like the trays basically are cut out so that when you're moving your pieces, they sit in there. So if some big oaf bumps the table, like your stuff isn't all messed up and reset. So I'm sorry, I'll stop talking about components. What do you think about the components?
The components are great, and for a game that was sold very heavily on the dice construction mechanic, one of the first ones to do that, yeah, it works great at accomplishing that, getting pieces on. Once you figure out that you can dig the corners in, you can do it very easily. If you try it with your thumbnail, you might hurt yourself.
Yeah, I would recommend that. Right, and you will inevitably, someone will launch one of these die faces across the room. Yeah. Inevitably. But it really is very simple to do. And yeah, I love the components and the look of this game. The colors are all pop, all very bright. So yeah, it is an easy 5 out of 5 for me. So now how about gameplay? Where do you come down on gameplay for Dice Forge?
Like you said, you can bring this game to people who are unfamiliar with it or maybe not hobby gamers. That being said, a lot of people who are hobby gamers might not like that there's a lot of luck involved.
Sure.
I mean, a game based around dice is going to have that.
It is in the name, basically, right?
But it's kind of measure your risk and reward. You can invest heavily on like one really, really good face, while all the other faces of your die are not good at all.
Sure.
And then you're just not rolling that the entire game. That can be a little dissatisfying.
Sure. And yes, you do run that risk of the die not coming down in your favor. But for me, I guess my counter argument would be that you mitigate that by, well, just build your dice better.
Yeah.
you know. And early on, I can see, especially like a new gamer who has not played a ton, yes, they get something, the rolls aren't coming up, they just aren't really familiar with like maybe a lot of engine builders, and they don't see some of the combinations right away. But I don't think that they will have such a bad time that they wouldn't want to play it again.
Yeah.
Like I think they might go, you know what, I want to play it again, but like this time I'm going to try something different. I mean, if they keep doing the same thing over and over, that's on them. There's no hope. But for me, gameplay is a 5 out of 5. I love that you have different cards. This is just one setup. They have different cards that you can use, that they give you a lot of different options, different replayability. You can also, I mean, heck, you can just play a bunch of times and always buy different die faces, you know, and try different strategies. So there's a lot of replayability. There's no downtime on turns, really.
Yeah.
Everybody is rolling their dice all at the same time, and you're going and you're doing, you know, so you're always kind of figuring out what you want to get. So for me, gameplay is high marks. It is a 5 out of 5. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the value. If you were to find this in a store at MSRP, or even if you already own this game, is this a game that's going to hold its value, like in your collection? So how do you feel about those?
For me, I have it, I own it, I enjoyed it. Don't get it to the table very often anymore.
Sure. So for me, this game has high value. I've gotten it played a bunch. I went and I got the expansion that adds more replayability, gives you some new tracks to do, some new die faces, and actually the expansion comes with basically 2 variants. So you can play it either with, you flip one track over and it's a completely different track and you use a completely different set of cards with it. One even adds like a whole new die that you roll and gives you new things. So for me, the value is very high because this game is not very expensive, especially considering the quality of the components you're getting. This game has paid for itself already with the amount of times I've been able to play it. It will keep getting played because it is so family friendly. It's so easy. And I think that there's enough that even some of the heavier gamers, if you make sure you throw in some of the different, or maybe some of the more complex strategies and die faces, I think that you can even pull them back in, at least for another game, and give it a shot. So, and I get it. Like, this scratches an itch for me. Like, I don't know what it is, but there's something about this game. When I play it, I'm very happy, even when I'm losing. But yeah, so for me, it is definitely a 5. But again, it's not that expensive of a game, because I've walked in and looked at games like this, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's got to be so expensive, and it's not. You know, especially considering like how well made some of the bits are and everything. So yeah, for me, very reasonably priced. I get a lot out of it, and I can get this played with anybody. So on the last one, interaction. Who's this game for? Who do you play it with? Maybe what are some of the pitfalls maybe of playing with other people? Player interaction. What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely play this with people who like chucking dice.
Yes.
You just toss a lot of dice. You do get to make some strategic, decisions, but a lot of it is, am I going to hit that good roll today?
Sure.
And it's fun to watch the outcome of that.
I throw this in the family game category, but I kind of cheat or lie to myself maybe a little bit, and I'm like, no, this is actually could be a middleweight game because there's so many options, and because you don't realize it, but you are kind of doing an engine builder, at the same time. And yeah, you're chucking dice, and I like throwing dice. I get it. But, this is very easy to get to the table, play with a bunch of family members. The one thing I will say is kind of fun if you are paying attention is when you're in one of these spaces and then somebody bumps you, you get to roll your dice again. So sometimes if you're just not sure what to do, but maybe your neighbor is going for a spot, you might just go camp out on that spot so you get the extra die roll. So there's a little bit of strategy, there's a little bit of player interaction. There are some cards in the game that when you buy it, everybody else rolls their dice and everybody else loses what they roll. So there is a little bit of take that or player where I can mess with James's board, but for the most part, you're really just kind of managing your own stuff. So if you don't like that, if you really want to be able to go after other people, there's not a ton of that in here, but that doesn't matter to me. I'm good with sitting down and taking this game for what it is.
Because everybody gets to roll the dice at the same time every time.
Right.
You never feel like you're left out.
Right.
You never feel like you're waiting too long for something to happen.
Yeah,
there's always something going on.
So for me personally, this game is a 5 out of 5, but I can see where the randomness of the dice is going to turn some people off. I understand that. I really love that you can mitigate that a bit with how you build your dice and maybe giving yourself extra die rolls based on cards you buy, things like that, or positioning on the board. So for me, though, it's a 5 out of 5. I play this all the time.
For me, I'm going to disagree a little bit. I like it. I really enjoyed it the first couple times, but kind of lost some of its charm for me. The art style is really vibrant and interesting, but I think it's a little too generic fantasy for me, for my taste.
It is definitely generic fantasy, right? I agree. I get it.
So I would say it's a 3 out of 5. After the first couple times I played it, fell off a bit.
Sure.
But I know a lot of people, including you, who really like it. So your friends and family might enjoy it.
Yeah. And if somebody like James is saying it's a 3 out of 5, what I'm going to do now is next time we get together for games, I'm going to bust out the expansion and see if that moves him to a 4, and if it doesn't, I'll leave him alone. But anyways, I've been Tim.
I'm James.
Have a great day. If you like what you saw,
if you want to see us make more content like this,
please hit that thumbs up.
Go ahead and subscribe.
Give us a share on social media.
Remember to ring that little bell, it really helps.
Be sure to check out our unboxing videos.
Don't forget we have reviews.
And also the news show.
Thanks for watching the Board Game Rundown.